everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm Dr. Ray. Welcome to my channel. We are going to jump into it today. We're going to be evaluating today pet food on request, and that is RAWZ. And so RAWZ is a misnomer. RAWZ is not actually raw. I think they mean like it's maybe like naturally raw. I don't really understand that, but it's not raw. It is a grain-free food, and so grain-free is not my first choice, or not really my recommended choice for the general population for dogs. You can check out some of the earlier videos on grain-free. You can check out the community tab. You can check out the AAFCO website. You can check out the WSAVA website for more information on that. But for cats, the grain-free thing is not so big of a concern. There are some little bit of question around there, but I think for a cat, I'm not as concerned, and so I wanted to go ahead and do the review for cat on RAWZ today. And so if you want to follow along, we are going to be using the Dr. Ray invented pet food scoring system. You can take a copy of this chart here, and you can follow along. You can see that we're going to be going through a couple parameters. We're going to check out the guaranteed analysis. We're going to check out the ingredient list. We are going to check out the feeding guide and the AAFCO statement. We're going to assign some points, and we're going to see how it stacks up to some of the others that we have reviewed. If you are new to YouTube or how YouTube works, there are a set of playlists that you can navigate to, and I separated into those playlists the food by 6 and belows, and 7 and aboves for both cat, kitten, dog, and puppy. And so we will add this food to the appropriate playlist after we're done with the review today. I have not prejudged this food at all. I did just want to make sure that we had some good options and that the information that we needed was available on the website, and it was. So if you want to go ahead and head to rawznaturalpetfood.com, you can play this fun game with me today. All right. So we're gonna go for cats, and there were a lot of options for cats. A lot of them were canned options, the shreds. There are a lot of options here. I'm gonna be doing a dry food today just because it's less conversions. You can use the PSS on any food, and you do have to do some conversions if you're doing canned food. Now, I do actually prefer canned food for cats. It does tend to do a little bit better with their kidneys and things like that. But for the sake of this video and it not being too long with math and conversions, we're gonna just go ahead and pick a dry one. And so we have to select here the meal-free cat food. And we're gonna see what options are available to us here today. So we've got two options. We've got the dehydrated chicken, and then we've got the salmon that also has dehydrated chicken and whitefish. So this is the best of both worlds. We've got salmon and chicken, so I'm just gonna go ahead and click that one. And we're gonna start picking this apart and going through some of the marketing things, because everybody says, pet food's so confusing, they're so confused. And the reason why you're confused is pet food marketers want you to be confused so that you listen to what they tell you, and you get, you lose track of what's really important. And what's really important is nutrition, is the nutrients. And so there are a lot of other things that may come secondary and ancillary to that. But first you want to make sure that the nutrition's there, and then you can start looking for other things like what kind of fancy ingredients do they use, what kind of processing plant do they use, are they eco-friendly, are they sustainable, all that kind of stuff. So let's just make sure the nutrients are there, and if the nutrients are there, then we can go hog wild on some of the other secondary aspects. And so that's how I approach things. I think it keeps me from getting confused. I think it could help you from getting confused too. And so if you're into that, follow along. You can see here on the packaging some of the big marketing thing, meal-free. Again, there's nothing wrong with meals. They're just highly concentrated and make things easier for companies to properly regulate and properly measure out. And so a lot of times these nutrients are way off, way excess. And so that measurement and making sure that we are in the appropriate ranges, it may be easier with a meal. And so, maybe for them it's not. Maybe they put the extra money to make sure that they're doing it correctly, and they're spending that extra effort. We're going to find out. But the fact that it's meal-free, it isn't providing, any substantial nutritional benefit. Right on the package, more, heavy marketing for 6 ingredients. Again, this is something developed by pet food marketers and to try to manipulate people. The ingredient list is not based on volume, and so it's based on water weight. Volume is how much of a product is in the food, and that's what you think of when they say, oh, you know, the most is in the front, and that's what they want you to think, but that's not true. The heaviest ingredient is at the top, and so when you have something like a chicken, a whole chicken that has all this water and all this moisture that's going to be removed because this is a dry kibble, and it may have bone, and it may have some feathers, and it may have other things that's not actually nutritious, and that puts it to the front of the ingredient list, but you know, that's not quality, and so they manipulate that, and that's why I don't spend a lot of time on this channel, because that is where people get confused. And so they've got you know, the first 6 ingredients. That's a bit of a marketing thing. It is salmon, dehydrated, deboned chicken, dehydrated chicken, whitefish turkey, and turkey liver. Anything else on here? No rendered chicken fat added. I don't know, maybe somebody can comment to me why that's a thing. I don't know why that's a thing. I'm not really sure. I guess it's saying about the processing. And then down here, they're highlighting it really small. You guys probably can't see it, and I can't blow this up, but it's saying all life stages in all breeds. And so it's a natural dry cat food. So all life stages is not a good thing. We're going to go into why that's not a good thing a little bit later. But that is the front of the package, and that's some of the marketing things that they're, you know, that they're presenting to us. All right, let's get into the stuff that we're actually going to start assigning points to. And so they've got it all nicely laid out here for us. They've got the guaranteed analysis, the feeding guide, and then the typical analysis. Now, what's the difference between the guaranteed analysis and the typical? Guaranteed analysis we do not want. This is again where people get confused, because this is what's on the package. We don't want this because when you click on it, you will see we've got these little dirty words here, minimums and maximums. And so these are not exacts. So protein minimum 40, okay, well, what's the maximum? They don't have to list that legally, and so they don't. Why don't they list that? Well, because maybe we're gonna run into some problems there. And so also the other thing is these also include moisture, so you can see here where they're listing the moisture content. You'd have to do a bunch of conversions to get that moisture out, so that we can really compare this to the standards that I'm using on this channel, which is Small Animal Clinical Nutrition. Why do I use that textbook? It's a textbook that is readily available. It's one of the only textbooks that lists the optimal levels. You can use AAFCO, and AAFCO levels are available. You can find them online, but the range is super wide. It's super lenient. It's not optimal. And so this textbook has got a bunch of references that you can read the papers, and you can read the literature where they got these optimal numbers, and they've got them nicely packaged and these beautiful charts. And so it's also free to you, and it's linked in the description box below, so check that out. But that textbook, the standards are on a dry matter basis. That means we have to take all the moisture out. And so that's just extra work for us. So what do we want? We want to avoid looking at the guaranteed analysis, and we want to find this over here, which is the typical analysis, or you can also email the company and get the information. But what you will see is we've got the nutrient here, we've got it as fed, this is what's going to be on the guaranteed analysis, and then we've got it on a dry matter basis. And so that's what we're going to be using today. I know a lot of my friends out there like to look at it on different standards. They like to do it on a per kcal that's there, or an energy, dry matter energy corrected to 4,000. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But you know, those values are there too. So this website's really nice about having all that information available to us. Why is it important that this is corrected to 4,000 kcal? 4,000 kcal is what the standard is on. Sometimes you guys email me questions, you know, and I get back to you and I say, look, we have to do all these conversions to evaluate this food that you've given me because the energy density is too dense, and you know, it's a lot of work to do that conversion. And so it's very nice that they've done that for us, because the standards are on 4,000, and so that means we want to evaluate the food as if it was 4,000. So they've done that conversion for us, and you can see how all these numbers differ. And so keep it simple. Remember, 4,000 calorie metabolizable energy density and dry matter basis. So what we're going to do, because this said it was for all life stages, all breeds, all everything, all cats, we're going to evaluate this food based on all of it. we're gonna see how does it stack up for a kitten, how does it stack up for an adult, and how does it stack up for a senior, because senior cats really do have some really specific and important requirements. And so we're gonna pull up some charts here that I've just basically compiled from that textbook that I talked about earlier. Just put them in a nice chart that's easy for, you know, easy for us to read. Alright, we're gonna just pretend that it didn't just take me like 20 minutes to get all this situated here, okay? And we're just gonna say thank you, Dr. Ray, for putting all these charts here on your computer for us to just really enjoy. All right, hopefully we can keep them there. All right, so as you can see, we've got the protein. You can't see really good on this chart, but remember the dry matter basis was the second one over. So it's gonna be this, this column right here that I'm gonna show you. And these are the standards. So we got your senior cat, your kitten, and your adult cat. And so protein on a dry matter basis is, when corrected to 4,000 kcal, it's the third column over, it's 44.31. And so for a senior cat, and that would be fine. For a kitten, that would be fine. And for your regular cat, that will be fine. Oh, I do want to make a little note. When you're looking at this senior cat thing, I need to just actually sit down and fix this. It's not 10. The calcium is not 10. It's 1.0, okay? So I do have to fix that, and I'm gonna write it on my hand, and I'm gonna remember to do that. I'm gonna try to fix that column. Actually, I don't even have these charts anymore, so I'm just gonna have to rebuild the whole thing, but it's 1, all right? And so fat, let's move on to fat. Fat is 16.46 in the food we're evaluating. And so for a senior cat, that's gonna be fine. Needs to be between 10 and 25. For the kitten, it needs to be between 18 and 35. So we are a little bit deficient here on the kitten. It's a little bit low for a kitten. And then for the adult cat, it needs to be between 10 and 30, and so we're good there. So we can already see it's not really appropriate for all life stages because the fat is insufficient for a kitten. And so all life stages usually means that it needs to meet the rigorous requirements for the, you know, the most difficult to provide life stage, and that's usually kitten. And so you say, well, you know, how can they do that? How can they sell food that's deficient? And the reason is because the standards that we're using are for optimal growth, optimal performance, and this is just coming from AAFCO. So AAFCO probably says, yeah, you can feed a kitten 16, but is your kitten gonna thrive at 16? Well, according to the literature, no, it's not. It really needs 18. And so you can see here why all life stages isn't necessarily good, and so they're gonna lose a point on the kitten for this. They're so far doing okay for the senior cat and the adult cat. Okay, so what else do we have going on here? We've got carbs, and there's not really an established carb level for cats. I searched for it all over the place. There is some carbs listed for pregnant cats, but we're not evaluating this food for a pregnant cat, and so we're gonna skip over carbs. Not really you know, specifically necessary in cats. They are carnivores, true carnivores. Okay, so we're gonna move on to phosphorus. Phosphorus, they're listing at 1.05. From the senior cat, we really don't want more than 0.7, and these minerals will contribute to kidney disease, and so we really want to make sure these are in check. And so you can see for a senior cat, this food would be totally inappropriate and extremely excess for the senior cat. For the kitten, though, it's going to be okay. It can be anywhere between 0.6 and 1.4, so we're okay for a kitten. And then again, it is going to be over for your regular adult cat, which is 0.8. So you can see the senior and the adult, we're starting to see the difference here in the life stage. So for a senior cat, we're really wanting to focus down and get those minerals under control as the kidney is starting to age. We know that kidney disease in cats, it's not when it's going, or if it's gonna happen, it's when it's gonna happen, and so we really wanna delay that, and we can't actually do that with nutrition. And so phosphorus is a little bit off for our regular adult cat and our senior cat on that. We're gonna move down. Let's see if we can't find the calcium here. Here it is. Okay. All right, so now we're going to move on. What other parameters haven't we done in the guaranteed analysis? Fiber, they're providing 2.95. It just needs to be less than 10 on the fiber, less than 5, and less than 5. So they're all gonna get a point on the fiber. So is that all the parameters? Yes, that is all the parameters. So our senior cat is only going to get 3 points on the guaranteed analysis, the typical analysis. Our kitten's up to 4, and then our adult is also hanging out at 3 with the senior. Okay, so let's move on to some of the other things that we're going to take a look at and see where else we can assign some points. We're going to go into the ingredient list, and again, we're going to keep this absolutely simple. We are not going to worry about it until we see the final score at the end. If this is a 10 out of 10 food, or even, you know, you guys might want to look at it further, if it's a 9 out of 10 food, or maybe 7, whatever it is, if it meets that number, then you can get into, my opinion, the nitty-gritty about the ingredients and some of these other things. I've actually said that on my channel. If there's a food that's a 10 out of 10, I'll be happy to go through, and we will go through and sit down and we will talk about every single ingredient, but we haven't found that yet. So ingredient list, and you know, for a cat, it is not raw, even though the food's called RAWZ. I think I emailed them. I'm pretty sure. I was like, are you sure this food's not raw? And they're like, no, it's not. So it's not actually raw, but it is grain free. So typically when I go through the ingredient list, those are the 2 things that I'm looking for. And so we're gonna say it's 1 point for not being grain free or raw, and we're gonna say that it's plus or minus another point depending on what camp you're in for cats for grain free. And so that's gonna bring the senior up to a 4, the kitten up to a 5, and the adult up to a 4. Let's go on to the feeding guide. So the feeding guide is the next thing listed. We are gonna have to find the AAFCO statement. We already kind of have an idea. This is all life stages, so let's see, do they have it listed anywhere we can find it really easy? They got it actually nicely highlighted here, which usually is not the case for the AAFCO statement. The AAFCO statement is usually like hidden because people don't, or companies don't think that it, you know, provides a lot of value to their customers, or the customers are not telling them that it's providing them a lot of value. So we need to be sure that we're telling, you know, food companies what we think is adding value, and I think that an appropriate AAFCO statement is one of those things. And so they're saying RAWZ is 100% nutritionally complete and balanced diet for all life stages. We've already found out that yes, according to AAFCO, that's true, but it's not optimal, and you can see that it doesn't say optimal on there anywhere. So raw salmon, dehydrated chicken, blah, 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 has been formulated. This food was not, they took a recipe that they got somewhere, somebody who knows who formulated this recipe. They said, yeah, I think that'll be great. It meets the standards. Let's just, you know, make it, bag it, sell it. They didn't test it on animals. They didn't see if animals did well with it. They didn't see if it was, you know, compatible with digestibility, palatability, anything like that. They just made the formula, put it in the bag, and sold it to meet the nutritional levels established by AAFCO. Food nutrient profiles for all life stages. And so they're not going to get any points there. We want the correct life stage, and we want ideally the food to be feeding trial. Now, feeding trials are going by the wayside. We don't see very many of those anymore. That's unfortunate. But a company that spends money to do feeding trials and actually wants to see how the food performs before they put it out there is good. So, I mean, you buy a car, you want to test drive the car, right? And so a food company should want to test the food and, you know, do actual data, you know, feeding trials to see how the food performs, I think, in my opinion. So that's why I put a point on that for me. You can add or subtract that point, and actually feel free to leave me in the comments below, you know, maybe how you felt maybe you should add or subtract the point. So they're not going to get any points there. So that's going to keep our senior dog at a 4, our kitten at a 5, and our adult at a 3, and then plus or minus 1 for the grain free on all of them. So let's go to the feeding guide. That's the last place we're going to get some points here. The feeding guide on these all life stage things, it gets crazy, y'all. This is why I don't like that, and you know, all life stage things just makes it really confusing for people. And so ideally we want to keep our resting energy requirement, and you know, we want it to match what it needs to be on the package. A company should be able to calculate it, and they should be able to recommend an appropriate amount of food for you. And we don't want to over supplement and try to feed you more food, but we also don't want to be deficient. And so this ideally should be correct. And so over here we can see that the energy density of the food was 3710. That's why they had to calculate to 4,000. And then it's 460 kcals per cup. Now a normal adult cat or senior cat needs about 250 kcals per day, and you can calculate that resting energy requirement. I also have a chart that you can reference. But I calculate this all the time, so I know it's 200 to 250 for your standard 10 to 12 pound cat. And so if we're gonna go over here in this range, so 10, and this is also interesting, they're giving you a weight range in pounds over here, but then they're not giving you a range in cups. So that already, I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here. You're gonna feed your 8 pound cat the same thing as your 10 pound cat? Like, that's a big difference. And so 10 pound cat, half a cup, 460 divided by 2, that's gonna be okay. Yeah, that's gonna be okay. And then for a kitten, use up to 2 to 3 times the adult maintenance. That actually is going to be true, and they're gonna get a point for that, because the resting energy requirements for kittens, you can see on the chart, you do have to multiply that by 2 to 3. And so they are gonna all get a point for the feeding guide. So let's add this up, my friends. Senior cat of RAWZ is getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a 6 if you're okay with the grain-free thing. So 6 on the senior. The adult kind of mimicked the senior, so it's a 6 there. And then on the kitten, they are actually getting a 7. So it's not bad for a kitten. So I hope that was interesting for you guys. I hope they give you a little bit, maybe a different perspective. I'm not making a food recommendation. I don't think there's any one, perfect food for one individual. That's just, everybody's different. Everybody's pet's different. And everybody's budget's different. Everybody's location is different. And so this is just to give you food for thought and things to look for, and to not be confused and not get sucked in by marketing. And so that's the reason for this video. I am not trying to change your mind. I'm trying to give you more information. Knowledge is power, all that stuff, so that you can actually, go through this with a critical thinking process and not be confused by it, because it shouldn't be confusing. I don't find it confusing, because I just approach it in a very methodical pattern. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe, ring the bell, do all the fun things. We'll hang out again. Leave me some comments down below. Keep them nice, keep them kind, and we will hang out again real soon.